Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and in this video for RPG A Day 2017 I'm going to be answering Day 8's question, which is what is a good RPG to play for sessions of 2 hours or less? So for my choice for this question, I've gone for Masks, A New Generation by Brendan Conway. Now, this is a powered by the Apocalypse game that I was introduced to by Lloyd Gann. I've since bought the hard copy, so that should tell you that I'm a fairly big fan of it. And basically, it's a superhero game where the players portray an up-and-coming generation in Halicon, and I know I've not pronounced that properly, city. A city that's the sort of superhero nexus for this campaign world. And it's a campaign world painted in very broad brushstrokes. Effectively, there was a single female superhero who started the whole thing off and was the first big public superhero. I'm afraid I can't really remember her name. It's something like Flying Freedom or something along those lines. And after she was the world's first public superhero in this setting, Halicon City sort of drew all of these other superheroes and associated weirdness to it. There was a number of different ages of heroes. There was the Golden Age of Heroes, who mainly fought against costumed villains with gimmicks and sort of roughly analogous to the Golden Age of comics. Then, for some reason, there was a power boost of heroes into the Silver Age, and these are your sort of cosmically powered, like Silver Surfer style heroes, some of your more powerful X-Men, etc. But also, as though in a consequence to this, the villains started becoming more powerful. So you've got like your Galactus and stuff like that. Then later on, there came the Bronze Generation, who were your more sort of like dark and gritty, sort of like late 90s sort of style superhero, who started to like not only deal with more sort of down-to-earth situations, but also had a social conscience. The player characters come from the most recent generation that is so new that they don't even have a sort of overarching title for them yet. They're just sort of in their first bloom of stepping into the superhero world, which is a very compelling setting since there's already this established dynasty of heroes. Like I say, which are all painted in very broad strokes. The GM has a lot of license to do what they want with the implied setting in this book. But as well as having to deal with their burgeoning superpowers, the players also have to face the problems that all young people face in the world. So whether that's going to school, dealing with family, other sorts of normal human stuff that people have to deal with, sort of writ large, if you will, and amplified through the lens of a superheroic, which is, I think, what makes this game really good. Now, I'm not really a fan of superhero role-playing games in general, since whilst I like superhero comics, and graphic novels, I tend to find that role-playing games feel a little bit restrictive to me, as opposed to the sort of freewheeling nature of the original source material. I'm not really keen on superhero games where you just have to spend ages crawling through big lists of powers, etc. I find that a little bit tedious. However, what Masks does, and it does very well, is it presents you with a series of playbooks. And anyone who's played a Powered by the Apocalypse game will be very familiar with what these are. For anyone who hasn't, effectively, you get your character sheet, which is your playbook. It has a number of options on that you tick during character creation to define your powers and what your abilities are, and the number of moves that tell you what you can do with them in game, which is very useful because everything you need to know pretty much is on your character sheet. You don't need, as a player, to spend ages combing through a book looking for a particular rule. If you can do it, it's on your character sheet. Simple as. Another good thing is the playbooks that it uses, they basically tell you what sort of superhero they are. So I'm just going to flick through the pages now, and I'll give you a line on what some of these are. So, for instance, here we go. We have the Beacon. You can see him there. The Beacon is a person who could have a safe, decent, simple life, but he enjoys the feeling of the superpowers that he has. He's hopeful, he's excited, he's as the book describes, the most directly mortal and the least strange of all the playbooks. They could choose to leave their life behind if they want, but they're here because they want to be a hero. We have the Bull, who is basically a powerhouse. They're strong, they're tough, they could have been created by some sort of Weapon X style project, but effectively physical prowess is where they come from. We have the Delinquent, if you can see him there, who is the sort of rebellious, attention-seeking teen character, you know, the class clown, the punk, etc. And they have powers, but they're a little bit fed up with everyone telling them how to use them and that they know best. We then have the Doomed, whose powers are intrinsically linked to some sort of dark fate that gets ever closer as they use them. We have the Legacy, who is the latest in a long line of superpowered beings, so think like the Marvel family, etc., who is now sort of struggling under the weight of that legacy and living up to it. We then have the Nova, one of my personal favourites, which is someone who literally has world-shaking cosmic-style powers. However, they've not yet gained enough control over them to be sure of the effects of them every time they use them. So it's a little bit of a two-edged sword. Yep, you're powerful, but each time you cut loose with those powers, there's this slight worry that something will go wrong or that someone will get hurt in the crossfire. We also have the Outsider. Now this is your Cyber She, your alien, your John Jones style character who doesn't originate on this world and is a bit of a stranger here and has trouble fitting in. We also have the Protégé, who is your sort of Robin, Nightwing style character who has been taken on by a more experienced hero and is being trained by them. And we also have, finally, the Transformed. Now, this is basically a superpowered freak who has had their powers imposed on them either by an accident or by somebody else. So I think Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk, some of the Weapon X projects, etc. This game really captures the feel of playing young superheroes in an exciting world, and it does so without recourse to massive detailed tomes of rules. I mean, the book itself is only like just over 200 pages long, not very thick at all, but it literally has everything you need in it to play a superpowered campaign. It's not just for one-shots. However, I ran a few games of it at the UK Games Expo 2017, and these were games on demand, so they're only taster games, 2 hours or less, which is handy for this video, and it worked really well. The playbooks allowed people to get into their characters straight away. Given the sort of archetypal nature of the heroes, it was obvious what they were. There was still a little bit of room for customization, so the players could tweak them up and down as they wished. And coming up with the background, which is something that the playbooks and this book tell you how to do, was very quick, very simple, allowed us to link all of the characters together and then also create villains and backstory for them, which basically meant I could go in with just a few notes scribbled down and run a good session for a couple of hours for the people who are playing it. So if you're at all interested in superpowered superheroic games, I really recommend you give Masks: A New Generation a look. I believe it was originally kickstarted. Unfortunately, I missed that, but it is now available in hard copy. It's a beautiful book. It's a really compelling game world, which many people will see has familiar sort of leanings. If you're into superhero comics or literature, you'll easily be able to pick up Masks straight away, and I highly recommend it. So in terms of what is a good RPG to play for sessions of 2 hours or less, I recommend Masks by Brendan Conway. Until I see you next time, take care and happy gaming. And I hope if you've enjoyed this video, you consider subscribing to our channel and check out some of the other videos on Red Dice Diaries. Take care.